to start with, your supply chain, because you talked about that as far as going to China and securing the supply chain and making sure that it has the integrity. As you know, there are a lot of issues with the products that come in from China, whether they have to do with construction or, toys or paint and so on and so forth. And so I like to start by understanding what steps you've taken, because this is something people would actually take.
Yes.
So the bar is much higher.
Yes.
One of the first problems I have when I explain our situation to people, the first concern is quality. And that's also a huge, just from consumer patient standpoint, and also from other practitioners. The minute we talk to them about this product, they're like, okay, well, who's your supplier? It's kind of well known. Everybody knows the suppliers and where the herbs come from and who's good and who's not. And there's like cults. These follow there, and these one like, oh, you're not using those herbs. It's kind of snobby about certain herbs, and so we've taken a lot of thought.
That's part of the problem.
and of course, just a few months ago, there was a study done in New York. Some herbs from Walmart and other big brands, they were doing DNA testing and finding that there was actually 0% DNA of the herb that it said it was going to be in that bottle. So that hurts the entire industry, and people have been cracking down on that. That's why it was very important for us, especially since our target market right now is practitioners, to go to China and make sure the quality is there and make sure that the supply is there.
But how? I specifically would like to know how. I mean,
I can answer that.
China is a big country. There are many different suppliers. What are the specific
There's some
steps?
horrible suppliers there. I went last year to the Canton Fair. It's the biggest export for medicinals in the world. And I met with several companies. I met from companies where people are, they got garbage bags of herbs and they're selling it like a bazaar. And then I met a pharmaceutical company that sells herbs. That caught my attention because they have the GMP standards, good manufacturing practice standards, which they do full write-ups on every single, chemical write-ups on every single ingredient. So it'll give you a full spectrum of the active alkaloids and so forth. That really caught my attention. As a practitioner, I could tell you, I will not give anything to my patients that I'm not fully convinced outside of business. I have a lot of patients that I give herbs to. The reason I'm comfortable with these ones is because the company we're directly working with is called Sanju. Sanju just purchased a $900 million pharmaceutical company now in China. I went to their facilities and I visited. Not only do they have the technology right now to do what they couldn't do 5 years ago, they have certificates. And now these are not internal certificates. So the GMP and the GAP certificates, which is good agricultural practices, are on a national level. And then finally, they are open to third-party testing. A lot of the companies that were iffy, they will not do third-party testing. That means I could hire a panel of experts from the United States, send them to China, and have them review every single.
You could or you will?
They already have third-party testing. So there are already literature out there, and I can if I want to here. And if our volume goes to where we think it's going to, we definitely are going to invest in that.
Now, are these herbs individual products that specifically being, farmed and harvested in China?
Mm-hmm.
And so do you have an idea of what are the collection of herbs that you'll be interested in as far as the individual ingredients that you're going to be putting together with your formula? Or that you're open to the ideas that they may have locally as far as what herbs may in fact be positive or good for certain issues and certain...
I see. So I've studied Chinese medicine, so
Yeah.
I'm open to what they recommend. 3,500 years of empirical data.
Right.
For an herb to go in their materia medica, it requires 300 years of proof. We do 7 to 10 year trials here. That's why we have all these side effects now. 10 years later, everybody comes out with these side effects.
Right.
So we're open to all of those. The company that we're working with, their line is approximately 450 of the herbs, and they've picked the most powerful ones. Now, there's thousands of herbs.
Yes.
But we are going to start off with the most common herbs that are the most safe and also easier to obtain, price point, and they don't have drug-herb interactions. Okay. There's a lot of drug-herb interaction going on.
And so you have identified those. And what about the associated formulas that are going to be using? Because, like you said, every formula could use, many of these individual
They're
herbs.
made of those herbs.
So
Right.
again, there's thousands of formulas too.
Right. And
We
how
had
do you
to
go
narrow
through
this
that
down.
selection?
Okay, so this requires a little bit of knowledge about Chinese medicine. The way it works is unlike Western medicine. You come to me for a cough, and I don't
I
give
just
you.
have one.
You just have one? Yeah, exactly. Noticed that. So what I would do in Chinese medicine, it's not just cough. They're going to look at your body type. They're going to take your pulse, do a full intake. They're going to say, where's this cough coming from? Is it from phlegm? Is it from cold? Is it from heat? It's a differential diagnosis. Each one of those patterns is correlated with a formula, and there's a book for that. And each formula has these following ingredients. So what we've taken is all of the source books, and we've incorporated all of those formulas that correspond to the diseases, the ingredients that correspond to the formulas, and we've populated our software with all the corresponding dosages that are recommended for that.
And also, we had a really high-level advisor who's known in the herbal community help us to make those initial contacts in China and let us know about the different companies and an expert in those, and also what formulas, what dosages. So we have had a lot of help building that database and doing that sort of
Now, you said you're marketing it to the practitioners.
Yeah, in phase one.
Right.
Yes.
So, so what degree are they going to be applying their own judgment of what they see, who they see as a patient, and to what degree they're going to be leveraging the information that you provide, and how does the two blend into one another?
It's actually really basic. What happens is, remember when I said you have cough and there's subcategories? The practitioner's job is to find out which subcategory, and they do that through intake. They need to take your pulse and say it's slippery, it's rolling, it's this, it's that. They look at your tongue and they do the full intake. They ask you all those questions. So the practitioner's job is to pick that initial step, is for them to do that. They know most of these. The problem is right now, we're at the right place at the right time, because right now you have to pick a book that you know that disease is written about somewhere, and another book that has the formula, and another book that's got the ingredients, and you have to take the time to do that. You have to have the book first, then you have to take the time to do that. Then you got to sit down and combine it, and then not get paid because they can't charge for it. They don't know how to charge for it. So we solved all those issues, use of streamlining that.
Let's go over the business model.
Sure.
Speaking of getting paid. Talk to me about, how do you charge them? Just for the herbs, but it's also for the software? Is it a software as a service? And then how does the expenses get carried through the patient, and are there any of them that is reimbursable?
So we went through and we thought of the different models that we could take, and with software nowadays, we just felt like, let's just throw the software out there. It's free to register. We do check to make sure that they're a licensed practitioner when they register. That's for safety reasons and confirm.
Are there different regulation in different states as far as the
It's not
licensing process?
That's our own standards.
Okay.
We're going above this.
Yeah.
It's
So
not
when
regulated.
you say they're licensed, what do you mean by that then?
We make sure that somebody goes and looks on the National State Board and make sure that they have to enter their license number
You have to have a
when they
degree.
register.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
you have to
what
have a
you mean.
master's.
Yeah.
But in that regard, there is a universal kind of
There's a
acceptance of
national.
it.
National.
You don't need that
California one as
license to
well.
prescribe herbs because it's so new. There's no
Yeah.
regulations,
Yeah.
but we require it because
Okay.
We
we feel
decided
it's
to go above
necessary.
and beyond in the beginning
Okay.
to cover ourselves
Okay.
and make sure we get a good reputation. So, the software it was free. You can go on there. You can use it as a diagnosis tool. Students have been at the colleges
Students love it.
have been loving it because like this is all our information. Like we have been you do it all for us and the conversions and this and that. So we're getting them even in the student level. So they're using our product before they even become a practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
They're lifers.
So we're going from the ground up, getting everyone we can signed up. Software is free. We're basically, our product is the herbs. We source them from China, so we got a really low, we got really high profit margin. And that's what we're
I'd
delivering.
like to talk about that.
Yeah,
Yes,
please.
go ahead.
Yeah, so when you buy herbs in the United States, there are currently companies that are American-based, high-quality herbs like KPC. The problem is they're about 30 cents a gram. We found, because we've been doing this for a year and a half, we have an actual pharmacy and a clinic. So we're filling orders. My phone all the orders just came in for today. So we found out at what price point practitioners are comfortable with and what price point patients are most importantly
Right.
comfortable with. They're not willing to pay more than 35 cents a gram. So right now, when you buy from an American company, there's only 5 cents of profit margin. There's no profit margins. I signed a contract with that huge company, Sanju, for our first year. It was supposed to be $40,000 a product. Second year, $100,000, and then we're supposed to jump significantly. We're getting on average our cost 6 cents a gram. Now we're marking that up not to 35 cents. We're marking it up to 21 cents a gram. The rest of that profit margin is for the practitioners.
Okay. So you're sharing the profit with them.
Absolutely. We wanted to find a
help
way
build
for
this
practitioners to make money. It takes time. It takes a lot of expertise. And practitioners want to prescribe because herbs work. I think
Right.
it's more powerful than acupuncture, personally. Some people would beg to differ, but, and they want to prescribe, but they don't have any incentive.
So you also talked about that they're going to be your target segment first. You
Yes.
said at first. So tell
Who's
me.
the second segment?
So what is?
Eventually want to go direct to consumer. We're building right now
So you want the software to be that the heavy books, that the formula that the individual can do on
Yes.
their own.
On their own.
yes, so you could put in, I have a cough.
They'll ask you a
It'll
series of
Since
questions.
you're not going to know your subclass, you're not a practitioner, you don't understand those things, we're going to give you a series of questions as the practitioner would if you sat with them. Line by line, you'll answer those questions, it will go through and give a recommendation of what herbs you should take.
This is
And-
called
and
differential diagnosis.
Differential diagnosis. That way, we can go directly to consumer.
So you can go on there. And in my studies, research, finding out, there's $4 or $5 billion in herbs being sold in the United States. Why is it going to ginger and echinacea? It's ridiculous to me because there's so much more powerful things going on. And secondly, you need to combine herbs. As an herbalist, I could tell you that for it to be a medicine, single herbs don't do anything. They do to a certain extent. On that note, when you make these formulas, so you as a person, a consumer, would go online, say I have a cough, and it would say, is it producing? Yes or no. What is the color? This and that.
So I have to ask
Sorry.
my last question.
Yeah.
Have you taken any precautions to provide disclaimers or manage your risk or provide information or say that you have to be this or that or to just try to kind of mitigate risk
Yes.
in any
Yeah.
way?
Absolutely.
Yes. My wife is a lawyer. She was a little bit over the top. We had to tone it down a little bit. Fortunately, on our panel of advisors, we have a whole law firm.
So is that something that you provide?
Yes.
Very
You go to
beginning.
register, it gives you the disclaimers to let you know this is a recommendation, this is not to diagnose.
Or treat.
Your typical,
Okay,
Yeah, for supplements.
yes.
great.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
taking
very
the time.
much.
Very nice meeting you.
Good to meet you. Good luck. You got your fan base too.
We'd like to
They travel with you.